Behind every locked door lies a story the world was never meant to hear. Welcome to Behind Bars TV, where we uncover the hidden realities of the world's toughest prisons, untold inmate experiences, and the systems built to contain them. From supermax facilities to forgotten penitentiaries, we reveal the truth behind concrete walls and razor wire. This is not fiction. This is the world behind bars. There's a place in America where the past never left, where men work the same soil that once held their ancestors in bondage, where the sentence life without parole means exactly that, you leave only in a box. To the world, it's Louisiana State Penitentiary. To the men inside, it's simply the farm, the largest maximum security prison in the United States, and the harshest. What happens when a prison becomes a town, a business, and a legacy built on the land of no return? Before it was a prison, Angola was a plantation, named after the African country where many of the enslaved were taken. The soil was fertile, the summers brutal, and the work endless. After the Civil War, Louisiana didn't abolish forced labor, it privatized it. In the late 1800s, the state began leasing convicts to plantation owners for pennies, continuing slavery by another name. Freedom came with fine print. By 1901, the state took direct control and turned Angola into a full-time prison. The same fields, the same tools, only now the slaves wore numbers instead of chains. They called it rehabilitation. The men called it survival. A prison built on pain. Angola's reputation spread quickly. Overcrowded dormitories, rotten food, rampant disease, and guards known as riders who beat inmates with whips. In 1951, over 30 inmates cut their own Achilles tendons with razor blades in protest to brutality. It became known as the heel-cutting protest. When the body is the only thing you own, pain becomes your last weapon. Even after national outrage, little changed. By the 1970s, the prison was called America's bloodiest. Stabbings, rapes, and murders happened weekly. Inside Angola, dying was easier than living. The farm of the condemned. Today, Angola stretches across 18,000 acres, larger than Manhattan. It holds over 6,000 inmates, most serving life without parole. The daily rhythm hasn't changed much since the 1800s. Men wake at dawn, line up for roll call, and march into the fields to pick cotton, soybeans, and corn under armed watch. They call it work. Critics call it legalized slavery. Inmates earn 2 to 20 cents an hour, barely enough to buy soap from commissary. The state sells the harvest for profit. For some, the farm is a second chance. For others, it's history repeating itself. The walls within the walls. Beyond the fields lies Angola's darkest corner, Camp J, once described as hell inside of hell. It was solitary confinement for those who disobeyed, 23 hours a day in a 6 by 9 foot cell. Inside Camp J, time doesn't pass, it circles. The unit became notorious for suicides and psychological breakdowns. After years of lawsuits, Camp J finally closed in 2018, but hundreds who lived there still bear the scars. You can lock away a man's body, but you can't bury what it does to the mind. Death row. Louisiana's death row sits inside Angola, a 40-cell block for men awaiting execution by lethal injection. Since the 1980s, more than 80 men have been executed here. Many still maintain innocence. In a place built on death, hope is contraband. One cell holds Anthony Haynes, who wrote, "Every day I wake up to the smell of chemicals and hear the hum of fluorescent lights. It's like living in a morgue that forgot you're alive." Even guards admit it changes them. Some refuse to witness executions. Others break down after years of service. Angola doesn't just hold prisoners. It holds souls. The warden's empire. For nearly 2 decades, Warden Burl Kane ruled Angola like a small country. A preacher, a politician, and a businessman, all in one. Under his leadership, Angola transformed from America's bloodiest prison into what he called a moral institution. He preached redemption through hard work, religion, and obedience. He built churches where there used to be shacks, and held sermons where men once sharpened knives. But critics say Cain's empire wasn't built on redemption. It was built on control. Inmates who attended church, worked hard, and stayed quiet received privileges. Those who rebelled were sent to solitary. Salvation in Angola was measured in behavior. Cain retired in 2016 amid allegations of financial misconduct. But his vision remains embedded in Angola's DNA, a place where faith, punishment, and power are inseparable. The sound of survival. In a place built to break men, music became the one thing that kept them human. From the 1950s to today, Angola has produced dozens of prison musicians, bluesmen, gospel singers, and poets of confinement. Every note carried a story they couldn't say out loud. Their songs spoke of regret, redemption, and the endless Louisiana sun. Some were even broadcast on public radio, giving outsiders a glimpse of the voices trapped behind the barbed wire. The blues was born on plantations like this. Now it was playing where slavery never ended. The audience, inmates clapping softly, some in tears. The Angola Rodeo. Every October, Angola opens its gates to the public, not for a tour, but for a spectacle. It's called the Angola Prison Rodeo. Part entertainment, part fundraiser, part paradox. Inmates risk their lives for cheers, in the same arena where others once fought for survival. The event attracts tens of thousands of visitors. Money raised goes toward prison programs. But critics question if it's just exploitation disguised as recreation. For a few minutes, the men are free, even if their chains are waiting at the gate. The Lifers Club. Inside Angola, most men will die here, so they built a system for living, even in death. The Lifers Club acts as the prison's unofficial government. They organize funerals, manage inmate events, and even mentor new arrivals. When the outside world forgets you, you learn to govern yourself. Every year, hundreds of men are buried there, their graves marked by simple white crosses and inmate-made headstones. Each one has a number. Each one was a man. The Great Escape. Over the decades, hundreds have tried to escape Angola. Almost none succeeded. With 18,000 acres of farmland, swamps, and armed guards on horseback, there's nowhere to run, only endless distance and heat. You can't outrun the land itself. The most infamous attempt came in 1956, when inmate Charlie Frazier hijacked a boat and nearly made it across the river. He was caught hours later, sunburned, delirious, and covered in leeches. At Angola, freedom is visible, but unreachable. The prison economy. At Angola, money doesn't come in cash. It comes in ramen, sugar, coffee, or soap. Each item is currency, traded, borrowed, and taxed. When freedom ends, economy begins. Cigarettes used to be the gold standard. Now, ramen noodles are worth more than $1. A single soup packet can buy you a haircut, a letter, or protection. Even in captivity, capitalism finds a way. Those with skills thrive: barbers, tailors, cooks, and artists. Those without? They survive by serving others, washing clothes, carrying water, or running errands for older inmates. It's not about wealth. It's about leverage. In this underground economy, debt is dangerous. One missed payment can lead to beatings, or worse. And with guards looking the other way, survival often depends on quiet diplomacy, faith, and forgiveness. For many, religion became the only escape Angola allowed. Churches line the prison yard, more than anywhere else in the U.S. system. Over 40% of inmates attend weekly services. When every door is locked, faith becomes the only open one. Warden Burl Cain called Angola God's prison. He believed men could only be reformed through Christianity, but some said it blurred the line between faith and force. At Angola, belief isn't always voluntary, it's survival. Still, for others, faith is genuine healing. Through prayer, inmates form brotherhoods stronger than gangs. Bonds built on shared regret and the dream of forgiveness. In a place that never forgets your crime, faith is the only thing that forgives you. The Angola Three. Among Angola's tens of thousands of inmates, 3 names became symbols of defiance. The Angola Three. They were accused of killing a guard in 1972 after joining the Black Panther Party's prison chapter. For that, they were sent to solitary confinement. Not for weeks or months, but decades. One man spent 43 years alone. No other democracy on earth allows that. The men claimed innocence and said their punishment was political, a way to silence activism, not avenge death. They weren't just inmates. They were revolutionaries in isolation. Their case drew global outrage. Amnesty International, the UN, and civil rights lawyers called it torture. It changed the conversation about solitary confinement forever. The Angola Three turned silence into protest and forced America to listen. The lawsuits that shook Angola. By the 1990s, Angola was under siege, not from inmates, but from lawsuits. Civil rights groups documented everything. Rotten food, lack of medical care, extreme heat, and unchecked violence. Inmates dying in shackles. Angola's problem wasn't chaos, it was cruelty by design. In 2015, a lawsuit exposed the prison's medical neglect. Men with cancer, diabetes, and heart failure went untreated for months. A federal court called Angola's healthcare unconstitutional. For decades, no one listened. Then the courts finally did. Reforms followed: air conditioning in some dorms, better access to doctors, and limits on solitary confinement. But many say change came too late for those buried at Point Lookout Cemetery. The human cost. Inside Angola, time doesn't heal, it hardens. Over 70% of inmates are serving life without parole. Hundreds grow old behind the same bars they entered as teenagers. Angola isn't a sentence. It's a life cycle. The hospice program became a quiet revolution. Inmates comforting other inmates in their final moments, holding their hands, praying, burying them when it's over. For the first time, mercy became part of punishment. Even the guards stop for a moment of silence. Because here, death isn't justice, it's routine. At Angola, even compassion has a sentence. Life without parole. In Louisiana, life means life. There is no parole board, no second look, no chance of release, ever. Over 3,000 men at Angola are serving that sentence. Some were 18 when they entered. They'll die in the same zip code. In most countries, a life sentence means 25 years. In Louisiana, it means eternity. Psychologists call it death by incarceration. It is a slow erasure of identity, time, and hope. A punishment that leaves the body alive, but the future dead. They aren't waiting to get out. They're waiting to be remembered. Angola as a tourist attraction. Few prisons in the world invite tourists. Angola does. Every year, thousands of visitors come to see the farm. They tour old cell blocks, visit the execution chamber, and buy inmate art. Some even stay overnight in the old warden's guest house. In Angola, punishment became performance. The museum calls it history. Former inmates call it exploitation. People come here to see danger, but they never see despair, reform, or revenge. Angola sits at the center of America's oldest debate. Is prison meant to punish or to reform? Some call for mercy, arguing that redemption is part of justice. Others say Angola's harshness keeps Louisiana safe. Every time reform rises, fear answers louder. Louisiana has the highest incarceration rate in the world, nearly twice the U.S. national average. To change Angola would mean changing America's idea of justice. The new generation. Despite the weight of history, a new generation is trying to reshape life inside. Angola now runs college programs, mentorship circles, and vocational training. They may never leave, but they can still change what the place means. The most remarkable change came in 2021, when Angola partnered with a local university to offer degree programs. For the first time, graduates walked across the yard in caps and gowns. In a place built to break men, learning became an act of rebellion. The reflection. Angola is more than a prison. It's a story of power, pain, and survival written into the soil. Generations have lived and died here. working the same fields where others once labored in chains. Angola is America, stripped bare. For some, it's proof that redemption is real. For others, it's the clearest reminder that America still punishes through history. The men of Angola will never walk free, but their stories already escape the walls. Louisiana State Penitentiary, Angola, founded 1901, still operating. More than 75% of inmates will die here. In Angola, freedom doesn't come with release. It comes with truth. What you just saw is more than a story. It's a reality lived by thousands behind bars. If you believe in uncovering the truth, the kind hidden behind concrete walls and silence, then join us. Subscribe to Behind Bars TV and never miss a chapter in the world's most dangerous stories. Until next time, stay aware, stay informed, and remember, freedom and confinement are sometimes only a wall apart.